Okay, so this is something that's like, even if I just mention it, like our next subject, even if I just mention it, I know, people have so many different opinions about it, and so many sometimes not so nice opinions about it, like and that's the grabbing below the belt. When I talked about this, like what happened, and I showed a small clip of the Empty Mind film. I don't know if you watched it, Empty Mind film, the Judo episode, where one of the Kodokan instructors talks about, what happened behind the curtains, in a sense. The popularity, say, competition in the Olympics between wrestling and judo. So judo had to really, reinvent it. Not necessarily reinvent, but really show its expression. That's these beautiful, effortless, picturesque throws, or these, breathtaking, swift ashiwazas. And I think they did a good job. I think they won that popularity battle. But I think this is a very complicated topic, because again,
I'll ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question. All right. So who are the ones that are complaining about it? So let me tell you this, first of all, is that it was the IOC that came to the IJF, International Judo Federation, and said that wrestling and judo looked the same because it was starting to bend over like this. So but judo looked like wrestling with jackets on. So they said you need to give it its identity back. So the original concepts of judo were that being able to execute techniques from good posture, good body positioning, and from an upright position, or sacrifice. But so the ones that are complaining are the grapplers. Now you already said this earlier when we were talking, and the grapplers are up in arms about it because, of course, they can't compete in both. Now it's more difficult for them to compete as a wrestler and in judo. So the judoka can adapt from judo down to the wrestling, because they learned to do judo from a standing position, from a more upright position. But now the wrestlers can't pick the legs, so they can't do a single leg, double leg. So what happens is they are finding it more difficult to compete in both wrestling and the judo. So it's the grapplers that are pretty upset about it. The judo fighters, the ones that preferred leg grabs and picking the legs, were a little bit put out, but some of the best ones adapted like that. And because, and for me, the reason that I think that it's excellent is that I believe that we should, our sport does go from use of feet, beautiful ashiwaza, and the mechanics of being able to throw somebody from a standing position rather than a bent over position. And I think that to be able to project 90 kilos into the air with movement and correction of balance, all right, is pure skill. It's one of the most skillful things. To be able to take somebody's legs or rugby tackle them over, I think that's one of the easiest things, isn't it? If we don't know, if we have no knowledge, then one of the easiest ways of getting somebody down is to dive to the legs and just take the legs away. It's one of the easiest things. One of the hardest things is to use your hips and your body movement to go underneath somebody and to project them upwards. It's one of the most difficult things. So I think that it's in definitely the right order now. And I think that if the grapplers and the wrestlers want to be able to do both of the sports, then they should learn how to do judo technique from a judo perspective, and then be able to adapt to their wrestling when they do the wrestling. I mean, I did judo to wrestling. And so I was able to adapt. I did the British Championships, and I did, so I was, I didn't go fight internationally, but we had many of our judo fighters that did European championships. Maurice Allen was one of them. He competed in, he's a 7th Dan judo. He competed in the 72 Olympic Games for freestyle. Wow. And yeah, as well. And yeah, so I mean, we have a lot of the judo players that, you know, that adapt in, but it was getting too messy. And so for me, and I'm being quite strong with my opinions here, all right? For me, it's definitely in the right order now. And the other thing is that if you have a look at people saying, oh, kataguruma, teiguruma, not allowed, you know, so maybe teiguruma is one of the only techniques that is not in at the moment. But all of the top judoka have adapted to uranagis and pickups. There's still some amazing pickups.
Shiragoshi is a very underrated one.
Yeah, Tsurigoshi, you know, but I mean, all of it, just adjusting the hands, not below the belt, but just above the belt. Just a small adjustment, you know, but these great fighters make an adjustment like that.
Yeah, there is also the argument. I find it's a bit of a solid one. It's that, you know, you are very good above the belt, but when you know, say you go up against a wrestler in a, you know, open grappling match, like you're gonna be startled. You're not gonna defend your lower half, and also you don't even know how to attack the lower half anymore.
Well, I was in the 80s. So actually when I was 5, fought lots of the wrestlers, all the time fighting wrestlers. My defense came from the hips, and it came from posture and from my kumikata, from my gripping. And the point is that if you have a situation where you've got wrestler against judoka, open match, as you've just said, the difference is that if you put a jacket on the wrestler and the judoka, you'll have a different outcome than if you take the jackets off. Yes. I wrestled with a very good friend of mine called Noel Loban, who went to the 84 games. He was 3rd place in the 84 games. And so he wanted to put a jacket on me for do judo. And I just gripped him so that he couldn't attack. Yeah. Because of the kumikata with the judogi. When we took the jackets off, he mauled me. You know, he just was all over me, you know, in a different way. And I had to adapt. But like I said to you, and we talked about it earlier, I adapted very, very quickly. And my wrestling game went up, you know, considerably within the, you know, the 5-7 minutes that we were fighting. But he was literally all over me, you know. So it's all about adapting to certain situations. And so, for example, if I know that I've got somebody with an amazing single leg or an amazing double leg, you know, then I will just make sure that I have a little bit more distance, you know. So the tactics comes into play. And it depends. The other thing, of course, it depends on what rules you're playing, whether you're playing wrestling rules or judo rules.
See, that's the other thing, is that those people with very strong opinions, the grapplers, it's always them saying, you know, if judokas went into the other realm, you know, BJJ or freestyle or whatever, but I still haven't found, or very rarely, someone that goes from these disciplines to judo with judo now and, you know, see them, you know, just dominate the game, because, you know, we're so restrictive, or we're so afraid of wrestlers, as they start to talk about. But you know, yes, that's the thing. Like, no one is willing to come to judo and really, you know, stand up with them. But you know, judokas constantly, historically, whether it's MMA, no-gi grappling, wrestling, they have taken off their jackets and went into the, you know, uncomfortable zone. They stepped out of their comfort zone, and they've achieved many things. Yes, not all of them, but they've achieved many things. But no one of these grapplers, maybe wrestlers, have come to judo and really, especially with judo now, no one has come and really, stayed standing on his feet. No one.
No, but and that's because it's the other way around. What happens now is that we have some of the young judo players that don't know this.
Yes.
They only know this, which that's a good situation to be in. But for a wrestler to come over to judo is more difficult now than it was when they could take the legs. And that's my point, is that's why that they are not so happy. Some of them liked to do both. They like to do the wrestling. Fitz Davis, who was also, it was the British wrestling champion, and he went to the 84 Olympic Games. He did both. He did judo as well. And of course, he could have a certain amount of success in the judo as well, but he was a leg grabber, and he relied on his tegurumas and his single leg, double leg. And the techniques he performed in judo weren't judo techniques. They were wrestling techniques.
He adapted his wrestling to the judogi.
Well, it's exactly the same. If I go into wrestling, when I wrestled, I actually was at lots of people.
And now that's the thing. You see a lot of instructionals coming out in the freestyle that are adding, drop ochigari, dash barai, kochigari.
Yes.
So I think like it's not just them having the influence, but also it's the other way around. So
yeah, I mean, I commentate as well. At the next Olympic Games, I'll be commentating freestyle and Greco-Roman, as well as the judo. So I find that really interesting. I did it at the last Olympics and at the European Games. And if you have a look at the difference between the Greco and freestyle, and the techniques, just by the difference in the rules of not being able to take the legs.
Entire expressions,
the techniques that come out just different. You can change one rule and you can change the game.
Yes, and that's another thing that I want to talk about with the upright posture is it can translate very good to self-defense, not just the upright posture, but also good kumikata. Debilitating someone with a very strong grip without even throwing them and staying upright, that can have a lot of good, in my opinion, when it transitions to street self-defense. When you get the clinch or you get the distance closed. And also, when someone does wrestling and only wrestling, and they're not really accustomed to someone really gripping them and just dragging them with their clothing, I think that's going to cause a lot of problem.
Yeah, well, I think wrestlers find it very difficult with the jacket, because of the gripping side of it. Because we use the jacket. The top judoka have really good kumikata, have good gripping strategies, are able to initiate movement through the jacket. And if you haven't got that, then you have to initiate movement through the grip in a different way if you haven't got cloth. So we do rely on cloth, very much so, we do.
But then, so you're gonna have someone, oh yeah, well, what are you gonna do if you fight on a beach? Like there's always something, like you're not gonna satisfy everyone. I think every art is lacking in something, but at the same time, in order to lack in something, it's specialized in something else.
Sure, but I just want to do judo. I don't want to fight in the beach or on the street. I just want to do judo.
Or what are you going to do when you go into MMA? I don't want to go into MMA.
I don't want to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not all Kayla Harrison, and but no, it doesn't interest me. People ask me, whether I would have been interested. It would have interested me because it really does. The close contact and the fact that the strikers are so. I mean, some of the UFC fighters are amazing,
ferocious.
Yeah,
like those head kicks. I cannot imagine.
No, I mean, the skills that are coming out are amazing, and they're good grapplers, and But was that for me? No, it wouldn't have been for me. I specialized in my own sport, and that was it.
Yeah, I think if you're so interested, I say street self-defense, or you're doing judo, like a lot of us are doing it, not only because we love the art, but also we want to be able to defend ourselves in case something happens.
Just in case.
Yeah, I think picking up something alongside something like sabat or kickboxing would also accustom you not only to get gripped and tight grips, but also if someone's throwing a few strikes at you, that would also complete it. Obviously, the weapons is another discussion that
Yeah.
no matter how long you train, I think it's always going to be surprising and dangerous. So again, I'm not a weapons expert, so I'm not going to really talk about it. But in terms of street self-defense, I think judo can do the trick. Just add a little bit of striking, I would say, reflex.
I think that's a really good point. The striking is probably one of the things. If I play with anything now, it's the striking part. With fists, not with the legs. I've got no knees left. My hips as well. So it's very much. But I think that being able to gauge distance and space is something that I've worked with a lot, with my judo. And so, for me, having space, somebody coming within my space is not what I want.
Yeah, I think if you see, I'm not talking about UFC or pancrase. I'm talking about a regular fight. I've seen many of those. They all start, distant. They get into each other's faces, a few slaps, get interchanged. And then there's like a clinch, and then it falls to the ground. I think from the clinch and onto the ground, I think we got that covered. So again, like I said, a little bit of, protecting your space, throwing a few good hands. I think that would benefit all judokas.
I think you're right, and I have every intention. So we might do some different skills, because I've got a lot of friends of mine. I've got a very good weapons guy. Who's very good with weapons, and so I'd like to do an international course, where we've got different disciplines that people could go to, over a weekend, and that I think that would be a nice situation, so we do close contact, we do balance, we do striking, we do weapons, we do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's needed.
So watch this space. It might be here.
Oh, okay. Your dojo. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay, good. So go back to the leg thing. The 2010-2012 rule set, was it, I would say, a healthy middle ground? Because you could, in order to get to the leg, you have to really engage in kumikata, and then go for a throw, and then finish it with like a little leg pick, a failed new kataguruma, finish with like the leg or serenage, or kochi with kibisugaishi.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that's more of a healthy ground? Because that's the thing that I talked about on my channel quite a lot, is something I call technical heritage, meaning the stuff that gets phased out of competition for whatever reason, they just stop being taught, and eventually it's kind of like we lost them in a sense. So, and that's a way of keeping them at least in the minds of the people. Like, for example, people think that leg locks came to BJJ or all these disciplines was actually from just catch as catch can and Sambo. They never even knew that judo actually, before 1922, they were doing straight ankle locks and knee bars and all that stuff.
I think that I've got some dear friends of mine, high level, who would quite gladly accept leg grabs back.
Yeah.
But the problem was that I think that generally, if we allowed it, then everybody would start diving for the legs again, even low level. And I think that it would then, it wouldn't look good. I think that the IOC wouldn't like it either. And I think that by Marius Visa deciding that he would change it by just changing the leg grabbing situation, I think that he saved judo in the Olympic movement. I think that if we weren't careful, we were going to be like karate. Karate now is split sections, different forms of karate, some that concentrate more on punching, some more on kicking. The different forms of karate were the reason that it didn't get into the Olympic Games. The first time it got into the Olympic Games or anything anywhere near was Taekwondo, but that was a Korean sport and introduced in Seoul in 1988. But I think that we would lose our identity, and I think it would have put us out of the Olympic Games. I'm convinced of that. So I think that we had a big meeting. There was a huge meeting. Kodokan, IJF, International Judo Federation, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Uemura, there was Kosei Inui, there was myself, Ezio Gamba, Alexander Yaskevich. There were the top fighters in the whole world had a meeting about the leg grabs, and in the end it was decided that rather than just allow one or two situations which would develop, because you've got to understand, right, that if as a top fighter, if I allow you to go one part into a gray area of what is allowed and what is not allowed, guaranteed that within an hour 10 different things will be out. They will find a different way of executing a leg grab or something from different directions, and and so it was decided that better not to have it than have one or two situations, because we all went for maybe this situation's good, this one here, take Guruma if it goes upwards. There were lots of different things that, but in the end, we knew that the gray area, and there are always gray areas in rules, if you allow too many gray areas, then the top coaches and the top fighters will always take advantage. So we try and make it as black and as white as possible. That's the idea.
But now I think you opened the door a little bit with the, if I'm grabbing the sleeve, I can hug the leg. But
well, that's exactly my point. So what happens is now, in the end, because we've opened, so what happened was somebody had the sleeve. So now we've had two fighters going down and catching the leg, or the arm hooking the leg while they're grabbing the sleeve. So it's again the gray area into the realms of somebody taking advantage. So in the end, what do? Do you stop any kind of touching the leg, or do you allow that? Do you allow the other possibilities that they're going to come up with next week? All right, you're right. It's opened up something, and it has been open to discussion since the last event. Yeah. So in some ways, they're very clever, and it's extreme. It's brilliant because it's innovative and it's progressive. But in the end, it's sometimes something that they do that we look at and say, well, because we look at it as referee supervisors and go, well, do we allow that or not? Technically, he has the sleeve. Yeah. But also technically, he's touching the leg. So better to have it or not have it.